Hi, good evening, Professor Noblin. My name is Nathan Palaman, and I'm here obviously to talk about the oral presentation that we have going on. Um, Please forgive the hotel background. I work and travel all the time, and so this is all I can do. Um, this is the only place I have to do it actually. So off to the presentation portion. The critically thinking assignment I decided to do was Olympus paying a price for doing what's right, and I decided to choose this. This is out of chapter 7. I decided to do this because I feel like it relates a lot to the Edward Snowden case. You have a guy who, a newly appointed CEO named Mr. Woodford, who started his new job with this company at Olympus, and saw that saw that there was some accounting errors, some accounting issues that were going on that he decided to bring public or up to his mentor, Mr. It's hard to say, Kikukawa, I believe. Um, Decided to bring these up to him, and it ended up costing him his job for what he was seeing. And I feel like it relates to the Snowden case in the same fact that Snowden was part of a contracting position. He noticed a lot of unethical things going on within where he was working, and so he decided to speak out. It's a little different because Snowden decided to take it to the media as, you could say, an external whistleblower, versus Woodford, who brought it up to his chairman of the board, Mr. Kikukawa. And so they're a little different there, but I think they relate a lot to what's going on. So off to the point here, or off to get started. I chose 3 of the 4 questions that you had asked for, and one of the questions was, what accounting irregularities did Michael Woodford uncover at Olympus? So what I read from the text was that one of the irregularities that Mr. Woodford uncovered was that the Olympus had acquired 3 out of 4 acquisitions, and they had made these acquisitions between 2006 and 2009. This in total cost Olympus $1 billion. But from what Mr. Woodford can tell is that their assets were written down just to a fraction of what was on the balance sheet, which indicated that they were considered to be, of no real value to the corporation. So with this, Mr. Woodford investigated what was going on, and the more he was able to reveal all 3 companies were registered, or the more, I'm sorry, backtracking there, the more Mr. Woodford investigated, the more he was able to reveal that all of the 3 companies were registered in the Caribbean tax. Obviously, it set some alarms off for Mr. Woodford, and it ended up, and him seeing that all 3 companies were dissolved and closed shortly after being acquired, raised a lot of flags for him. Now there was also a 4th company. It was a UK-based company that had to do with medical instruments. This one was acquired for $2.2 billion, but it also included a $687 million transaction fee to a couple of investors that had invested within Olympus. So these funds also went into a Cayman Islands account, but was shown that it was also closed shortly after the deal. Now, typically, an investment fee consists of only 1% of the transaction. However, a fee of almost 33% was subsequently declared by the company's directors. If you acquire a company, honestly, for $2.2 billion, and you see that the transaction fee should only be 1%, and you have 2 investors doing this, those investors should have made about $10,000 apiece. That wasn't the case here. Both investors ended up splitting $687 million with a transaction fee. This was obviously a big issue with Mr. Woodford, and so one of the reasons why he brought it up to his advisor, or to his chairman of the board. So the second question I chose was, how did the executive leadership respond to Woodford's revelations? So in October of 2011, Woodford expressed his suspicions that a series of clear accounting irregularities had destroyed $1.3 billion of the shareholders' value within Olympus. And by, honestly, $1.3 billion is a ton of money. if you ask me. I mean, honestly, if I was a shareholder with the company, I would want to know where my $1.3 billion went. So, as the text described, he later saw it as a catalog of calamitous errors and exceptionally poor judgment. So, due to the fact this was going on, Woodford concluded that Kikukawa, which was his mentor and his a person on the board of directors, resign as chairman of Olympus Corp. Obviously, Kikukawa didn't see it that way, and ended up being. This unfortunately resulted in the firing of Woodford 3 days later after he had brought this up. After his termination with Olympus, the text also goes on to explain that Woodford's personal account read honestly similar to that of a spy novel, and that he was fearing for his life based on beliefs that the accounting scandal was driven by the Japanese mafia called the Yakuza. I don't know how popular the Yakuza are. I know I've heard of them before, and I know that it's something that they're a particular mafia or gang, if you will, I would want to mess with, and it would also cause me, a great deal of stress and want me to move out of the country, just like he did. With this fear in mind, he ended up fleeing Japan for the United Kingdom, which, like I said, I don't blame him. It also goes, kind of ties back to the Snowden case where, Snowden whistle blew, however you want to pronounce it, that things were going on that were wrong in the CIA or the NSA while he was going through and doing his job with the contracting position he had. Doing so, Snowden had to relocate himself as well out of the country. I believe he went to Russia and maybe even China or Japan. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but dealing with powers that great would also really have me decide on should I stay in this country or not. And that's exactly what he did. Woodford got fired. He thought that there were some things going on with the Yakuza, which honestly, in fear of his life, he decided to up and move himself. It doesn't explain whether or not he had family and things like that in Japan with him as well, but he made a change. He decided to speak up on what was going on, and it obviously in the end caused him to move. So the third question I decided to choose was that critics argued that Woodford could have been more effective if he had taken a longer-term approach to addressing the accounting scandal, rather than the showdown approach that he took with Kikukawa. It goes on to say, is that a fair assessment, and why or why not? So, in my opinion, I believe that Woodford did the right thing. It's hard to, obviously decide or know what's going on between, or what would happen in the future if you were to, do this type of action. But to me, Woodford was thinking ethically. He knew that there was a lot of things going on and a lot of irregularities in their accounting. He saw that there were irregularities with the funds being transferred into offshore accounts, but yet he still decided to blow the whistle. To me, I would have done the same thing. It's a very hard thing to do, but as far as, just what I've been reading and understanding in our class and learning in our classes, business ethics is something that, a whole lot of people you would hope would follow, but in some cases it doesn't. And when I remember doing an assignment on Edward Snowden and realizing or reading that he wasn't able to deal with what he was seeing, which ultimately led to him going on and doing his and blowing the whistle on the government and what he saw in the NSA and the Privacy Acts and everything that was going on. He felt that it was his duty to bring, to the light to the American people what was going on between our government and the people. I feel that Woodford felt the same way. You know, Woodford had the same realization of what was going on, and that it was, you know, it was his duty to go in and not accuse his old mentor, Kikukawa, of, you know, embezzling money or doing whatever they want to do there. But he felt that it was his, you know, due diligence or his right and his belief to bring it up to his mentor, whether or not he was his mentor or not. You know, he decided that it was something that was wrong, and that he was basically taking billions of dollars away from the shareholders, the people who were buying into this company. You know, he was taking that money away from them, and you know, ethically, it's not right. It was very unethical for what the Kikukawa and the chairman of the boards did with this money and with the shareholders' money. So I honestly feel that, yes, maybe it could have been a little more effective if he were to kind of prolong it a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like if he didn't act when he did, that just gives more time for his mentor, Kikukawa, and the rest of the chairman, or the rest of the board, to come up with some idea to move the money somewhere else, or just to get rid of it. You know, he had the specific facts right there when he saw them and he saw the irregularities, and I feel like that's the reason that he did what he did. And I believe that it could have been. It's just as effective now than it would have been, but more than likely more effective when he did it as soon as he saw it, versus giving them time to go in and change that. I believe it's not a fair assessment. I know critics argue about it, but the critics are critics. They'll talk about whatever they believe. You know, we see that going on in the world all the time. You always have somebody who has their own opinion, just like I do. My opinion is he did the right thing, and he was able to tell, you know, or fix the issue, bring up the issue anyways, because if he wouldn't have done it, Olympus could have made billions of dollars more on, you know, excuse my language, but screwing the shareholders out of the money that they're investing, hoping that they can get a great return on it. So I don't agree with the critics. To answer question 3, I don't agree at all, and that's basically my belief on it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that I answered the questions as logically as I could. And thank you for your time, and ask, you know, that you have a great evening, and that's it. In conclusion, Woodford did the right thing by my books, by my standards, because I would have done the same thing, even if it meant fleeing a country that I love so much. Thank you for your time.